Reincarnation anime often recycle the exact same tired tropes, but these 10 series completely shatter expectations with brilliant narrative twists you absolutely need to watch. Kicking off our list at number 10, Noble Reincarnation, Born Blessed, So I'll Obtain Ultimate Power. Following his untimely demise, Noah is reborn into an aristocratic family with an unimaginable advantage in a world governed by strict magical hierarchies. Endowed from birth with unparalleled magical reserves and a unique blessing, he shuns the typical political intrigue of his noble lineage. Instead, Noah dedicates his new life to mastering every conceivable combat art and arcane spell. Driven by an insatiable thirst for absolute supremacy, he traverses dangerous territories, battling ferocious mythical beasts and uncovering ancient magical secrets to cement his legacy as the most formidable warrior alive. What makes this series incredibly entertaining is its unapologetic embrace of the overpowered protagonist trope without feeling cheap or unearned. The animation absolutely shines during high-octane combat sequences, delivering crisp choreography and explosive magical effects that keep your eyes glued to the screen. It bypasses agonizing training arcs, throwing you straight into visually stunning power fantasies. The pacing is relentless, offering pure adrenaline rather than dragging through unnecessary exposition. If you crave watching a supremely confident hero effortlessly dismantle arrogant enemies while flexing god-tier abilities, this series delivers immense satisfaction. Moving down the rankings to number 9, Reincarnated as a Dragon Hatchling. Awakening in a mysterious magical forest, our protagonist discovers he has been reincarnated as an incredibly weak dragon hatchling. Stripped of human comforts, he must rely on sheer instinct and a numerical status system to survive terrifying predators. The plot revolves around his relentless grind to level up, evolve into stronger draconic forms, and unlock devastating new skills. As he ventures deeper into this unforgiving ecosystem, he slowly uncovers the dark lore governing monster evolution. Desperately fighting to reclaim his lost humanity while surviving endless brutal encounters every single day. I absolutely love how this series reinvents the zero-to-hero progression fantasy by stripping away humanoid privileges entirely. You genuinely feel the desperate stakes of the wild, making every tiny victory feel incredibly rewarding. The art direction beautifully captures both the adorable vulnerability of his initial form and the sheer terror of apex predators lurking nearby. Unlike shows that hand out power freely, this journey demands blood and grit. Watching our scaly underdog adapt and overcome impossible odds offers a deeply addictive loop that hooks you from scene 1. Continuing our dark descent at number 8, My Ridiculous Reincarnation. Waking up as a literal skeleton in a massive underground labyrinth, our bewildered hero faces an incredibly harsh new reality. Stripped of his flesh and former identity, he must navigate deadly traps and fight mindless ghouls just to survive. The labyrinth itself is a living dungeon filled with shifting corridors and terrifying boss monsters. Driven by the singular goal of regaining a normal human body, he utilizes his unique undead traits to bypass physical limitations. He recruits a bizarre party of outcast monsters, turning this grim situation into epic adventure. This anime delivers pure comedic gold mixed with surprisingly deep strategic combat. What hooks me instantly is the incredible juxtaposition between his terrifying skeletal appearance and his highly anxious internal monologues. The voice acting is phenomenally expressive, carrying intense emotional weight despite the protagonist missing a literal face. The studio flawlessly animates bone-rattling combat sequences while maintaining a consistently vibrant color palette that prevents the dungeon from feeling visually boring. If you enjoy bizarre monster dynamics and laugh-out-loud humor blended with stellar action, watch this masterpiece today. Unlocking devastating secrets at number 7, Petals of Reincarnation. In a world where specialized individuals can unlock past lives to gain extraordinary abilities, Toya desperately desires talent, but possesses absolutely none. Everything changes when he discovers the Reincarnators, people who cut their own flesh with mysterious branches to awaken the profound skills of historical figures. Toya eventually unlocks the ruthless powers of a notorious historical killer, dragging him into a vicious hidden war. The plot revolves around his moral struggle to use evil powers for justice while fighting a dangerous organization of violent reincarnated geniuses seeking total societal destruction. This series completely shatters standard conventions by injecting heavy psychological thriller elements into an action-packed narrative. I am obsessed with the creative combat mechanics based on actual historical legends and famous criminals colliding in modern settings. The visual representation of awakening abilities through self-mutilation adds a dark, gritty edge that separates it entirely from generic fantasy shows. It forces viewers to question the blurred lines between heroic ambition and villainous origins. If you want high-stakes intellectual battles fused with brutally animated cinematic clashes, you cannot miss this. Breaking conventional rules at number 6. Failure Frame. I became the strongest and annihilated everything with low-level spells. Summoned to a magical realm with his classmates, Mimori Tuka is cruelly discarded by a ruthless goddess after receiving an abysmal rank. Banished into a lethal underground ruin designed for certain execution, his survival depends entirely on bizarrely classified low-tier status ailments like poison and paralysis. The story relentlessly tracks his ascent from absolute rock bottom as he realizes his seemingly useless abilities bypass all conventional magical resistances. Consumed by a burning desire for revenge against the corrupt deity, Mimori methodically slaughters impossible beasts while assembling dangerous new allies. This show presents an absolute masterclass in subverting power fantasies through sheer tactical brutality. I deeply appreciate how the narrative refuses to grant him flashy elemental spells, forcing him to rely strictly on ruthless strategy and psychological manipulation. Watching an outcast effortlessly paralyze towering dragons before watching them slowly expire is incredibly cathartic. The animation excels during these chillingly quiet moments of victory, emphasizing his growing emotional detachment. If you love dark revenge plots featuring highly intelligent protagonists who outsmart rather than overpower their arrogant foes, this series reigns supreme. Entering the top 5 at number 5, the reincarnation of the strongest exorcist in another world. Betrayed and murdered by his trusted allies, Haruyoshi uses a secret arcane technique to reincarnate into a magical realm. Born into a prestigious family of sorcerers, but completely lacking their natural magic, he quickly discovers his past life formidable exorcist abilities easily dwarf modern sorcery. Vowing to live a peaceful life free from fatal betrayals, he hides his overwhelming spiritual power behind a facade of mediocrity. The plot intensifies as he secretly manipulates events from the shadows, utilizing traditional spirit summons to obliterate monstrous threats and protect close loved ones. What captivates me most is the fascinating clash between Eastern spiritualism and Western fantasy magic. Watching Haruyoshi deploy complex paper seals and massive mythological demons against arrogant knights casting basic fireballs never stops being highly entertaining. The animation studio masterfully executes these stylistic contrasts, making the spirit summons look incredibly distinct and imposing. He possesses terrifying power, but chooses cunning intellect over brute force, creating suspenseful cat and mouse scenarios. It brilliantly subverts the typical overpowered narrative by focusing heavily on his psychological trauma and desperate need for genuine connection. Flipping the script completely at number 4, Villainess Level 99. I may be the hidden boss, but I'm not the demon lord reborn into her favorite romantic role-playing game. Yumiella discovers she is destined to become the ultimate hidden boss who ruins everything. Determined to avoid this disastrous fate, she decides to grind levels peacefully in total isolation. However, her obsessive gaming habits push her entirely to the maximum level of 99. When she enrolls in the Royal Magic Academy, her monstrous power completely shatters the expected social hierarchy. The plot follows her hilarious attempts to convince terrified nobles and aggressive main characters that she poses absolutely no apocalyptic threat whatsoever. This anime is a comedic masterpiece that brilliantly deconstructs the villainous genre. Yumiella delivers unparalleled deadpan humor, reacting to earth-shattering magical phenomena with completely blank expressions that never fail to draw huge laughs. I'm constantly amazed by how well the show balances situational comedy with genuinely engaging interpersonal romance. The animation playfully emphasizes her overwhelming aura of doom, contrasting directly against pastel academy backgrounds. It completely revitalizes tired tropes by making the protagonist dangerously overpowered, yet socially inept, creating extremely satisfying viewing experiences you absolutely must watch today. Taking strategic command at number 3, the reincarnated aristocrat's appraisal skill. Ars Luvent is reborn as the frail son of a minor noble in a politically unstable realm teetering on the brink of absolute civil war. Lacking any significant magical strength or combat prowess, he possesses one uniquely game-changing ability known as appraisal. This incredible skill allows him to instantly read the hidden talents, ultimate potential, and true loyalties of anyone he encounters. Knowing his weak territory cannot survive the coming bloodshed alone, Ars uses his visionary sight to recruit brilliant tacticians, masterful warriors, and powerful mages from absolute poverty. This hidden gem expertly trades flashy solo combat for deeply engaging political maneuvering and empire building. I adore how the narrative emphasizes empathy and leadership over sheer destructive force. The emotional weight hits incredibly hard as Ars uplifts marginalized outcasts, transforming them into fiercely loyal legends. The animation beautifully highlights subtle facial expressions during intense diplomatic negotiations, giving profound weight to every single conversation. If you crave intelligent tactical warfare mixed with incredibly wholesome character development and high-stakes kingdom management, this series delivers an unforgettable strategic masterpiece for you. Slicing through the competition at number 2, reincarnated as a sword. Instead of awakening as a typical human hero, our protagonist opens his eyes as a sentient magical sword planted firmly inside a dangerous monster-infested wasteland. Featuring powerful telekinetic abilities and the unique capacity to absorb skills from slain beasts, he spends his early days hunting alone. Everything changes when he rescues Fran, a desperately oppressed beast girl slave. Forging a powerful magical contract, they become an inseparable duo. The story focuses on their touching father-daughter dynamic as they travel the world, slaughtering abusive enemies and seeking ultimate liberation. This anime perfectly balances violently brutal action with incredibly wholesome emotional healing. I am totally captivated by Fran and Teacher because their bond feels so genuinely authentic and protective. The animation studio goes absolutely insane during combat scenes, delivering fluid strikes and explosive magical combos that feel incredibly impactful. Unlike generic harems, this focuses entirely on familial growth and mutual respect between a weapon and its wielder. Watching an adorable child ruthlessly execute corrupt villains with a fiercely protective sword offers an unparalleled dopamine rush you simply cannot ever ignore. And finally, reigning supreme at number 1, Ascendance of a Bookworm. Urano Motosu is a deeply passionate librarian who tragically dies under a collapsing pile of books during an earthquake. She awakens in a medieval fantasy world as Mine, a physically frail young girl living in absolute poverty. Devastated to learn that books are strictly reserved for the ultra-wealthy elite, she makes a monumental vow to create them herself. The narrative brilliantly follows her painstaking journey to reinvent the printing press from scratch, utilizing her vast modern knowledge to navigate complex merchant guilds, dangerous magical nobility, and constant physical illness. This masterpiece stands undeniably as the absolute pinnacle of the entire reincarnation genre. I am profoundly impressed by its meticulous world-building and the incredibly realistic economic consequences of introducing modern technology to feudal societies. The animation perfectly captures the rustic charm of her humble beginnings while scaling beautifully into the opulent halls of aristocratic power. It completely abandons brainless action for high-stakes intellectual problem-solving and deeply rewarding character development. Watching Mine ruthlessly conquer an entire society purely through her unyielding love for literature is an unmatched experience. These incredible series prove that reincarnation stories still hold massive potential when given truly fresh perspectives. I want to hear your unique thoughts on this ranking. Which specific title completely blew your mind? Share your absolute personal favorites below, and always stay hungry for great anime.